Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday live stream. So today we're going to talk about is just the time in the market, and is it a good time when to buy and when to sell and everything in between. Now, unfortunately, nobody has the answer. And I'm not going to give you some clickbait title and something to say like, I know everything, because nobody knows. They believe that they do, and they give you the best information they possibly can, but nobody has 100% assurance about what's going to happen, or they're straight up lying to you and giving you information that totally contradicts each other. And we're going to talk about that in a bit as we talk about Tom Lee. But before we get into that, let's just hit up to where we actually are for today's video. And this was interesting because it's all about, buying in uncertain times. Now, I have to preface it with this. I'm not a financial advisor. I can't tell you what to do. I'm not your dad. But for me, this has worked pretty well buying in uncertain times. But there is going to be a point when this isn't going to work out too hot because there may be some unforeseen headwinds coming. But let's just break it down, go in reverse. So you would think that when you want to buy something, it's at the absolute lowest point, right? It makes total sense. Let's just buy when things are rock bottom prices, when there's blood in the streets, when everybody is freaking out, and start right there. We don't want to start before that because, there's a little bit of uncertainty and could go up, could go down. So we want to get to the very lowest point. And I'm here to tell you that doesn't matter. It matters a little bit, but I'm going to show you how much it didn't matter last time. This is us looking at 2021 going down. Now, you would think that you would want to buy Bitcoin probably when it's in this range of 15,742. Now today, Bitcoin is, I have no idea, like around 87,000, 88,000, somewhere around there. Correct me in the comments section. But you'd probably love to buy 15,000, right? During this time, maybe get a big lump sum and then start to go off from here. Because why would you want to buy Bitcoin, say like up here at the all-time high, or maybe like a month later around December 20th, 2021, just, 4 years ago? Why would you want to buy it at $47,000 when you could buy it down here? So I'm just going to ask you a quick question. If you were dollar cost averaging at this point, why would you start at 47,000? Do you think that would be a lucrative assignment? Do you think that would lower your cost basis, meaning the amount that you're actually purchasing at 47,000, then at 45,000, then maybe back up to 50,000, and then it kind of bleeds out in a slow bleed? Would that be a good idea? Or would it be to start at the lowest point, which in this case would be a year later, November, 9th or 10th, 15,742. The obvious answer is 15,000, you would think. But check this out. So what I did was I took a look at a Bitcoin DCA simulation using Ben's website. And I just said, let's just do 30 bucks a day starting on that date. Actually, I picked November 1st, 2022, because it was a pretty good time in November 2022 when we were just, totally crashing. So I said, okay, let's take, November 1st when Bitcoin was just above 20,000, and a couple days later went to 18,000, then 15,000, then up to 17, and back down to 16, and so on and so forth. So if we would have done that, bought $30 per day, starting on November 1st, 2022, and then, of course, today, November 1st, 2025, we'll just leave it there, whatever it is. At the peak, actually, no, I'm not going to do that. The total invested would be $32,910. That's how much you invested into over the last 5 years. And your profits, you would actually have doubled your money, $67,468, which is 105%. Sounds pretty good, right? Well, check this out. If you would have done essentially what I'm doing right now, which is not really waiting for the ultimate be-all, end-all monstrous dips, and you were back 4 years ago, and you started to invest around December 19th, December 20th, 2021. Remember when Bitcoin was like 45,000, 50,000? You wouldn't want to do that, would you? Well, over time, yes, you would have invested more, 42,420, but you'd be up a higher percentage, 130%. And that's all that matters. It's the percentage gains that you have. So even though people will tell you, you know, you want to buy when there's blood in the streets, and that's true, it's great. But if you think about it rationally, just being in the market is an opportunity in and of itself. And we can see right here, here are the percentages. And if you want to go even further than that, there's this thing we do called dynamic DCAing. And what it does is for these risk levels, which we talked about many times, you can find here on the CRYPTOVERSE site, I said, let's do 30 bucks a day, but let's only do it up to the risk levels of 0.499. Everything other days, you're not going to buy squat. But as it starts to go down, like into the 0.45, 0.4, 0.35, you're going to double or triple up what you originally purchased into, meaning that you're only buying during these vastly crushing days. And take a look at this. Feeder that from 2022, again, the low point. Here's how that works. 2022 until today, roughly, you would have spent about 20,000 as we round up, and you'd have 76,000 or a 284% increase. So again, it's all about the time that you do, but you can also play a little razzmatazz and use a little what's called dynamic DCAing and have a lot more gains just for doing the same thing and then not doing the thing that you want to do during the time when the risk levels are a little bit too high. So let me just think about that in the comments section. It is pretty crazy to think about. You'd think it'd be like just going at the lowest low points, but no, just being in the market. So that works out great. And that was the most bullish part of the show, I'm afraid to tell you. Now, if you want to leave, I would recommend you leave right now because it's going to get extremely bearish and you may not like it too much. And there's one thing that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, but after you learn about it and you start to hear more about it, you're going to start to think to yourself, maybe I should sell all my Bitcoin. I'll get to that in a second. So the headwinds, I would say, first of all, as a reminder, January 15th, MSCI is going to come due. Essentially, strategy and Bitcoin buying firm face exclusion from stock indexes, and this is the MSCI, and they're going to decide by January 15th on these DATs, these digital asset treasuries or digital asset companies, from being a part of their index. If they exclude MicroStrategy and Metaplanet and all the rest of them, even the ones, BitMine with Tom Lee and things like that, if they start to exclude them, that means that the people that invest into the MSCI are going to say, okay, well, we have to sell all of our shares in all these different DATs, and that could be up to $9 billion in demand for its shares. And actually, that's just for MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy could cost the Bitcoin company up to $9 billion in demand from its shares and hurt the wider appeal of the sector. Unfortunately, when that happens, it has nothing to do with if Bitcoin had a double spend or if there was a hack or if there's some other macro tailwinds. It's just MSCI going, you know what? You guys are putting on your balance sheet more than 50% of digital assets. We don't want to be a part of that. And we're going to kick you out of our fund. And if we kick you out of the fund, the actual funds that were being funneled for these DATs, that's all going to go away and we're going to sell out. So there was two things. First of all, Michael Saylor from Strategy said, I'm not worried about it. He dismissed the worries over potential MSCI exclusion, telling Reuters that it wouldn't matter. But in a public letter to MSCI, he and the CEO, Feng Li, estimated DAT exclusion would result in almost $3 billion of its stock being liquidated and would chill the entire industry. So there is definitely headwinds coming for that. Also, and that's just on trading side, if we're taking a look at legislative side, it looks like Cynthia Lummis, who was the most pro senator for crypto outside of, say, like Ted Cruz and a couple of Tom Emmer. He's a member of the House, but she is set to retire from the Senate. That means she is going to leave her seat vacant on 2026, so she's not going to seek re-election. She cites the exhausting sessions during the government shutdown. And I can agree with her. If she wants to step down, that's a huge loss, I think, for somebody who is pro-Bitcoin speaking in the Senate. So that is a massive bummer. And then also, speaking of the Senate, it looks like the market structure bill has been pushed into 2026. This bill is built on the House-passed Digital Asset Market Clarity Act, or the Clarity Act, to define how the digital assets are regulated. And this is a smart thing. It would have split the oversight between the SEC and the CFTC, which makes total sense. Not everything is a security. And in that case, it's a commodity, CFTC. And if it is a security, then let it go for the SEC. Now, of course, this has been derailed until 2026. And it's a great, if you know how the House and the Senate work and Congress, they love to kick the can down the street. So don't expect that to get passed anytime soon. Also, recently, ETF flows for Ethereum, another red day. Looks like they just lost about 78 million. Before that, the day before on Thursday, 97 million roughly, then 22 million. And then Monday, 224 million. Oh, no, excuse me. Wow, it was just an incredibly red week from the 15th of December to the 19th. That's a bummer. And then Bitcoin ETFs, roughly also red week, except for 70th December, looks like they gained 450 million, but they lost 160, 158, 277, and 357 million. Not to be total bearish, but as a reminder, this is the total amount of Bitcoin that has been purchased for the spot ETFs. So we've lost ground, and I expect us to lose even more ground, but we're still way, way up. And then lastly, before we get to the big thing, which is concerning me, Tom Lee. And I'm sure he's going to put out a statement pretty soon about this, but just so everybody is aware, it's from Woo Blockchain. Tom Lee's fund, Fundstrat, stated in its latest crypto strategy advice to internal clients. And just so you know, for these internal clients, Woo Blockchain, they confirm the authenticity of this information by reading the internal report released on December 17th. The price for these clients to get this newsletter is $249 per month. I guess Woo is paying for that. That's why you can't see it everywhere, because you got to pay for it. Anyhow, in the internal clients that a significant correction is expected in the first half of the year, which completely contradicts Tom Lee's public statement. So behind the scenes is like, yeah, we're going to have a big, huge drop. And public, he's like, it's going to be awesome. The internal report sets target prices at Bitcoin 60 to 65,000. Again, this is the internal report. Publicly, he said in December, it'll be 250,000. Then he revised it and said, you know what, we're still going to see between 150, around 150 towards the end of January. Now he's more saying is like, yeah, there's too much headwinds and it's going to be even lower than that. So in this report, $60,000 for Bitcoin, that's quite a drop. I mean, from 87,000. And then Ethereum, 1,800 to 2,000, and Solana, 50 to 75. This comes just moments after Tom Lee stated at Binance Week that Ethereum at $3,000 is severely undervalued. Well, I mean, look, if you really think about it, I'm not going to defend Tom Lee. I'm just saying, I mean, he's made some pretty crazy predictions. I think all predictions are worthless, but he's right. $3,000 is severely undervalued. And if he just says, hey, we're going to $1,800, I mean, that's even severely undervalued. It's not like he's saying too much. So maybe there's something to be read more into that. Maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh. Let me know in the comments section. And let's move on to the last thing. Quantum computing. Don't laugh. I know what you're thinking. And I thought this too. I was like, quantum computing. Listen, nerd. It doesn't matter about that. Because when quantum computing comes in and it crushes Bitcoin, well, then all the Department of Defense secrets will be out there because quantum computing. All of the bank accounts will be hacked because of quantum computing. And all the secrets that are being out there is going to be hacked because of quantum computing. So, that'll never happen. Look, I agree with you. That could be true. However, there was a great back and forth. This is on Preston Pish's channel. This was a month ago. can't believe I'm just getting to this now. And he's talking to Charles Edwards, who's the head of Capriol Investment. He's been a huge Bitcoin bull for a very, very long time. And when I first heard about this, I just poo-pooed. I'm like, who cares? This is just some guy who's saying that quantum computing is going to destroy Bitcoin so he can run down the price, buy a bunch of Bitcoin, and then dump it on me later. That's exactly what I thought. And I have to say, I apologize for thinking that way. Take a listen to this video. I'm going to share with you just the first, well, not the first, but just 2 minutes in here that was pretty interesting. What I'd like you to do is do me a favor. I linked this entire video in the description. I'd like you to watch this video. Then tomorrow when we have Jerry Hall on, I'd like us all to discuss this and see where we're going. Because when you listen to about where quantum computing is and how I think it's the same thing as like with AI. In 2021, everybody's like, that's dumb. That's never going to happen. And it's years away. 2022 ChatGPT came out. And in 2 short years, we have essentially AI being potentially the biggest bubble that's out there or the biggest opportunity ever. And it actually works and functions. Listen to this 2 minutes clip. Watch the rest of the video later. Check this out.
Business in Bitcoin for many years. He says there's a 50% risk in 4 to 9 years. And remember, if it's 50 in 4 to 9 years, what if it's a 30% risk? That's obviously earlier than that. There's always some risk earlier than these timeframes. Pierre Look here is a PhD in maths and physics, specializing in quantum. He thinks it's 2 to 6 years away. McKinsey, obviously one of the biggest think tanks in the world, are saying Q-Day, that's RSA broken, is 2 to 10 years away. And again, remember, Bitcoin's ECC breaks years in advance because it's not as strong as RSA. And then one of the big papers on this matter is that 2017 quantum paper at the bottom. And they're saying you only need 2,330 qubits, that's the logical ones, to break Bitcoin's encryption. Most leading firms right now are projecting that capability within 4 to 5 years. And that's, again, written by multiple doctors at Microsoft, IonQ, the biggest quantum company in the world, and Meta. So all these timeframes converge in the sort of 2 to 9 year bracket with a very high probability in the sort of 4 to 5 years, which is why I talk about us having until 2027 to 2029 to solve this risk for Bitcoin. And that considers also, we need to think also about lead times for implementing any change on Bitcoins. That's a whole other topic to discuss. But there's 2 major discussions and decisions that need to be had, in my view, on the Bitcoin front. First is obviously agreeing the technology to upgrade to quantum proof encryption and wallet systems. And then probably, 70, 80% of the network will happily move across to that when that decision's made. And then the second decision is, what do we do with the lost coins, the 20 to 30% of coins, which are on really old addresses like Satoshi's coins, P2PK hash systems, and also any coins that have been lost or just sitting in safes or just fail to upgrade in time. Those will be taken with certainty by a quantum machine. There's nothing we can do about it. And so we need to decide as a community, do we just let that happen? Or do we initiate some kind of process to burn that in the code?
And it goes down that rabbit hole. And look, I know what you're thinking. You're like, they can just easily do that with the snap of the finger. Developers are very good as far as Bitcoin goes. And that's true. Unfortunately, to go from quantum resistant Bitcoin to what we have now, everything has to be transferred over. That means transferring over to a completely new wallet, a new system, not of course for mining, but a new system for Bitcoin. And that could take, and they lay out the math about how this could potentially take months to well over a year, and even 2. And when they talk about this, and it's not, and Preston Pysh is, pretty even kilter guy. And at first he was, he's given the pushback, did a lot of research on it. But when they talk about it, you start to fall down this rabbit hole and go, wow, this could really happen. And so this is one of those things I think we should all be discussing, and we all should be pushing forward. If we don't do that, we fall victim to getting blockbustered, meaning the new technology that comes in wipes us away, and that's it. It takes an entire lifetime to build a rapport, to build trust. And it only takes seconds to destroy that trust. And the reason why everybody wants Bitcoin is because they trust it, and it is finite, and it is proof. If you have something that you can move Bitcoin because there wasn't an upgrade for quantum computing, This is a big, huge deal. And this video opened my eyes to it. Anyhow, that's it for today. So look, if you like today's video, which I don't know why you would because it's very bearish, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, all that great stuff. Now let's do a little Q&A and we'll get out of here. There was a comment and it was pretty smart. The Beef says, this is not Tom Lee's personal views. It is an analysis that works for Tom. And what Tom was talking about is like, look, and he's right. Ethereum under $3,000 is massively, massively undervalued. So I can see what he says there. And then on his public display of what he says may actually be a difference between fund strat, even though you'd like it to be in alignment. But the example given is Jamie Dimon saying that Bitcoin is trash, yet JP Morgan just built their money market accounts on Ethereum, and they're asking big clients to come in. So there is something to be said for that. So there's a good comment, good something to think about. Rob, 5 alt, would you buy in this bear in your opinion? I'd buy the best, which we just talked about. So shout out to Kraken for listening to me and offering that bundle. The best is Binance, Ethereum, Solana, Tron. Not that I don't like your altcoin, whatever it is, but we take a look at Tether and USDC. It's 92, 93% of the entire market cap for stable coins, and it's on really those 4 chains, Binance, Ethereum, Solana, Tron, for the vast, vast majority. So I would buy those. I mean, I can't tell you to do that. I buy those, and you can buy whatever. But that's what I would, if someone asked me, like, that's what I buy. All right, what else we have? Ricky, I missed Rob's predictions. They were awful, and they sucked. And I think the only one that I nailed was Cardano. I did a price prediction. I said, I think it's going to go to $3. I think it went to like $2.97. Other than that, all wrong. And also, in the description of all the videos that we do now, I put in, under the crypto, these things called crypto critical videos. They're not that critical. I mean, some of them are, like the 5 rules in avoiding scams, and those are like critical. Everybody should watch those. But the one about this one, number 12, price predictions are all worthless. Just watch that. It's like 8 minutes, 10 minutes, and it goes over everybody's, the big players, price predictions from 2021 and how every single person was wrong. And yes, I call myself out in the video. So check that out. Let's see. Gamefly, I missed the dip on Friday. What do you think of the market will react on Monday? Do you see another dump? Yeah, I mean, if the Bank of Japan, they just lowered rates, I think on Friday morning, around 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, somewhere around there. And usually, you know, to get in the market, like it doesn't happen immediately all the time. There's like a little bit of a pullback. But then, you know, when these hedge funds have to come crawling back, they're like, hey, you know, we got this free money, now we got to refinance and purchase things back, then maybe there's an unraveling. So we'll see how that rolls out later on. And then also, there was core CPI and CPI data came out on Thursday, and everybody was super excited. We went from 3% down to 2.6 and 2.7 respectively. Unfortunately, there was only 2 data points that we were able to take a look at because the government was shut down. I think we won't know how far inflation has fallen or maintained until we get the full data, which won't be till next month. So expect that to be either fantastic or awful. Nobody knows. I love the pool jump video. That was fun. Oh, I didn't know that. Japan has a new-ish Gen 6 fighter jet. That is awesome. Oh, good for Japan. Building things left and right. Ricky, has there been any talk about mortgage rates coming down anytime soon? No. But, I mean, we would think we should see it. I will tell you, I see a lot of, you know, we take a look at prices for different houses across the country. I see a lot of delisting, a lot of people pulling, and of course, it depends on, you know, which state you're in, which city you're in. Some states and cities, they are going like gangbusters. But the things that we look at, I can see there's a lot of delistings happening, meaning people have a listing of a house, an apartment complex, land, or whatever it is. They've had it on there for so long that it's become stagnant, and people see it and they're like, we got to pull this off because it looks bad for us to have this just listed here and there's no activity. And, you know, once you see something that's been there for like 8, 9 months, like, why isn't anybody buying it? It must suck. So they delist it, pull it off, do some kind of renovation, or just relist it at a later date. I see a lot of those. And I see a lot of things not getting sold right now, which is kind of interesting for real estate. Do I think it's going to collapse? No, but we'll see if the rates will come down. Pig butchering's on the rise. This is for like scams. People butter you up and essentially steal all your funds. Yeah, there's that. And I just saw a news report, and this is sad. Let me see if I can find it. It was elderly are being targeted by scammers, and they're making them go to Bitcoin kiosks to get Bitcoin and then to transfer it to them. And what they do, here it is right here, as a matter of fact. And what they do is you'll see the elderly people, like this police officer found the person that was being essentially screwed over in a pig butchering. There's the guy right there. And they were telling him like, okay, we need these funds because if not, you're going to get arrested. And you know, elderly people, they're susceptible to these types of things. And they'll lose like their life savings or a big chunk of their funds. So thankfully, I mean, one was disrupted, but it happens every day, every hour of every day. And these kiosks, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, you know? Are you using a weapon to protect yourself? Are you using a weapon for hunting? Are you using a weapon or a rifle for something else? Same thing with the kiosks. These are being used for detrimental purposes. Sad. Very sad. Yeah, a lot of price decreases. Yeah. What about Trezor 7 cold storage supposed to be quantum safe? Real deal, that's probably buzzwords. It has to be done at the Bitcoin level. It's not just for a cold storage device. That, as I understand it, I could be wrong. We'll take a look. It's a good question. This quantum computing, and then just so you know, as you're going through that and listening to it, make sure, because they're going to talk a lot about qubits, logical qubits versus physical qubits, and the numbers that are being played back and forth as far as to make quantum computing actually stable and effective. So just when they say logical versus physical qubits, cue into what they're talking about. It'll make a lot more sense. Again, everybody watch that video, because tomorrow we're going to have Jerry on and we're going to talk a big chunk about that. Because I think if there's a chance that that can happen, why would anybody hold Bitcoin outside of the next 18 to 2 years, 18 months to 2 years? I mean, come on. Who'd have told us? Told us this Bitcoin is 64K. What do you think? Sure, anything's possible. All right, my man. Rusty, price difference between now and Friday is just 3.2%, which is good. What I sometimes do is I feel like I missed out. I buy for $10. This is just for peace of mind. Don't blow a drip header. You know, I saw somebody had posted on X that an individual, no one knows who he is, but he bought $30 worth of Bitcoin every single day. You know what? I'd like to try this. And it said that he made it to be a millionaire. So when Rusty Bot's talking about buying $10, that's something. What if Bitcoin goes to, you know, 127,000 at some point? That's a good deal. I mean, let's be honest. If you're doing things with money and you're putting it into assets, whatever those are, at least your money's working for you. That's important. Let's do this. I wonder if that's actually true. $10 a day. I wonder if you can do that. Oh, and just so you know, you guys can go to Ben's website and sign up and use the DCA simulation and just run through this and just see what it is. And you can put in, like I put in gold here just to prove a point that I forgot to talk about. Even as much as gold was down back in 2022, as much as it's risen up and been crushing it the last year or so, you would still have done twice as well buying Bitcoin. And it doesn't matter the amount, it's all about percentages. With gold, you're up 47.6% over 4 years. With Bitcoin, you're up 105%. Just saying. Will that continue? Anybody's guess. Who knows? But I will say, if people talk to you and like the shifts of the world, and they say, you know, gold We have to use that for AI. It's good for the chips and it's good for conduction of electricity. Tell them, oh, really? Well, guess what? I actually looked this up. Here's the metals ranked by importance to AI computer growth. I wouldn't be buying gold for the conduction for AI chips. If I had to do anything, I'd be doing silver. And the most important commodity, the most important metal that you can have for importance to AI compute growth would be copper and aluminum. And why is that? It's important for, like I said here, high voltage transmission lines, data center bus bars, which is thick copper rails, and cooling systems because things get super hot and copper is a great conduction. So when people say, gold is what we need for AI, no, we don't. We need nickel, tin, silicon, which is like a metalloid, iron, aluminum, and copper more than we need gold and silver. I would buy silver personally. So not to get off track because I'm failing at this miserably. $10 a day. And he did this from 2017, well, on November 1st. I knew it. It's full of it. Well, no, that's not true. You actually would invest $29,000. Well, I mean, you would have 500% up, but it's still not $1 million. So it was a false post. But we get to see, this is why I love this website. I get to come in here and then prove things wrong. But, I mean, it's not bad. Imagine buying $10 a day since 2017, and you got 170. And at the peak, you had $250,000. Yeah, it's pretty good. Time in the market, more important than timing. Yeah. Rob is talking The Quantum Leap with Scott Bakula. Fantastic show. Fantastic show. I want to say that was the late 80s. Great, fantastic, good show. Scott Bakula, the actor's actor. Cran is here. Ben says a 30% chance Bitcoin get a new all-time high in the next few months. Sure, anything's possible. Why not? Crypto Labs. Thanks, Rusty. Let's see. Copper is king. I didn't know it was that big of a thing. I had to do some research on it. And I was like, because I was getting so ticked off, people tell me how great gold and silver was. I own gold and silver. So I was like, maybe I should buy some more. And I looked that up. I'm like, damn, now I got to buy copper. And I think that's it. Guys, I think we did it. Anywho's it. All right. So again, if you all would be so kind, check out that video for Preston. And it is interesting about how they came to these assumptions and the data that's being put out. And if you think that AI moves fast, you would be blown away when we start to learn about how fast quantum computing is going. And then one more thing, which was interesting. People say, well, I always said, well, if the bank accounts get hacked, right? And they said, well, you can actually put two-factor authentication on those, and that's quantum resistant because there's only so many times you can run through it. But with a private key, you can keep going and going and going. This all just comes down to an upgrade. Anyhow, watch that video, talk about it tomorrow. That's it for today, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day or your weekend. And that is it. Thanks so much. Adios.